My husband has been living with it for 20 years. Also, he found out about the diagnosis only the last year. However, he copes with it like a real coach, stoically, mostly calmly and objectively. And here I am talking about my ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Also, he maybe has it too. If it weren't for our youngest son Yehor, I probably would never have thought that I'm an adult with ADHD, often disorganized, forgetful, impulsive, too sensitive. In a word, somehow broken. Do you have symptoms of ADHD?
I got used to myself in 35 plus years somehow. However, Yehor appeared, and since 1 year old he was obviously different from the three elders. Too active, not talkative enough, with other sensory needs. He couldn't be left alone even for a moment, and he didn't know how to entertain himself. It was unusual and difficult, and our friend, a speech pathologist, suggested that it could be an ADHD. I began to immerse myself in the topic, becoming more and more convinced that it was the case. It got to the point that I became the editor of the book project Uncomfortable Children, Practical Advice for Parents of Children with ADHD, which I translated into Ukrainian. And at the same time, getting acquainted with ADHD, I increasingly recognized myself in the symptoms. This was an unexpected discovery, and at some point I wanted to shout out to the world a phrase that became the title of one of the many monographs about this syndrome. You mean I'm not lazy, stupid, or crazy? And the world immediately became kinder to me and began to sparkle.
I understand many adults who have been diagnosed with ADHD in the middle of their life. Yes, it's mind-boggling. However, when you move into a state of acceptance, it becomes much easier because it explains a lot. And when there is an explanation, you can calmly and gradually assess the situation and determine the strategy for further actions. One thing is bad, not everyone goes to further actions, hanging out in limbo. Well, I have ADHD. What can I do here? It can't be cured. It is very similar to the news about oncology. Someone gives up and quietly fades away, and someone uses their time to the full 250% and gets an extra 10 years of life. So it's just a matter of how you perceive your features, as an advantage or a disadvantage, as an excuse to be a victim or as new opportunities.
The main problem of ADHD is its hundreds of thousands of faces and the fact that each person has his own combination of features. Here are some of the most common issues that I've experienced myself. Difficulties in completing the started tasks, constant distraction by small things around during work, inability to focus when needed, lack of motivation, incessant thoughts, forgetfulness, especially regarding agreements and things that need to be done, interrupting the interlocutor during the conversation, sudden loss of interest, and fidgeting, for example, restless legs or arms.
And I didn't just notice it, I realized that it had a tangible negative effect on our family life, my relationship with my husband, both personal and professional, and my ability to raise children the way I really wanted. They say informed, therefore armed. However, with ADHD, it is only half true, because one of its features is that it is not that people with ADHD don't know what to do, it's that they struggle to start doing what they know.
Just knowing is not enough.
You know, it's really nice to be encouraged to be kind and compassionate to yourself, and not just to others, because empathy is another problem of ADHD people. It is easy for them to understand and feel sorry for others, to put themselves in others' situation, but they don't do that for themselves. However, in my opinion, at some point you just have to stop being compassionate to yourself, because it can become a swamp of self-pity. The position of victim is definitely not about adulthood and a conscious attitude towards your life. From this position, little can be achieved, and there were no happy victims. So you should think about whether you really want to continue like this. What can help here? It's a common knowledge that ADHD has its advantages, and among them are
huge energy from no one knows where, desire to try everything, care, the ability to act spontaneously, attention to details, curiosity, desire to help others, creativity, ease of communication, non-standard thinking.
And that's not all, and agree, these are really cool qualities. You can get full list of advantages of ADHD at the link in the video description. And good news! ADHD is one of the most studied syndromes, so there are several options for solving this problem. Medicinal way is far from being the main one and the only one. Behavioral therapy works great in most cases with both adults and children. Problems with concentration, attentiveness, motivation, with weaknesses of executive functions are really solved. There should be only a desire to move forward. And that's why I really like the words of one Israeli expert in kids ADHD.
ADHD is not a sentence, but simply different driving rules on the same freeway of life.
If you feel that you cannot cope on your own and you feel lack of feedback in books, you can contact a specialist. It is better to work with a coach, because psychologists and doctors will not help you much here. This is not a disease and not a psychological state, but the peculiarities of your brain at the cellular level. And as to coping with it on your own, well, read the cons and imagine how long it will take you, plus if doctors put you on pills. There are coaches who specialize in working with ADHD, but an ordinary coach will also come in handy because he will be the necessary interlocutor who will help you better hear and understand yourself. That's why I like to come to my husband as a coach. His perspective on problems is helpful and sobering at the same time. And I recall every time that the problem is not whether I have ADHD or not, but how I am generally determined to act at that moment, how actively move forward and work on the shortcomings that prevent me from doing something. What do you think? Can ADHD really ruin your life and put an end to your dreams? Or is it just a matter of how you treat yourself and your goals? Share in the comments.